Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat shalom.
which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. And welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us. As we go about and speak to people and put out these documentaries, you may not see the fruit of those things right away, but you're noticing that it's forcing conversation between a lot of other organizations and a lot of things that have always been known. I know it seems like, some great new thing that you've heard of the name of Yahweh, but you have to understand that these uh, um, preachers have been taught the name of Yahweh for many, many, many decades. They have just been instructed not to deal with certain things. But now that these documentaries and these teachings and all of these things that have been placed on the internet, these things are doing what they need to do because they're forcing conversation amongst these other organizations. We were riding down Highway 124 the other day and saw a Christian church that is setting up their vacation Bible school, and they put a sign in front of their church that said Yahweh is holy. These are things that would have never happened unless the conversation, the things have been forced. So it forces them. They may not be able to deal with it in the full way that we deal with it, but it's forcing conversation that people are starting to ask their pastors about the Sabbath day. Now you have several church organizations now that have optional Sabbath services. But that's the beginning, and that's happening because, the conversations that you might have with people, and those people won't come back and tell you, that, hey, I talked to my pastor and, we're doing such and such. They won't say anything, but they'll listen to you and they'll watch you do some stuff, and then they'll go back to their church and start asking some questions. And that's what needs to happen. Because if there's not any dialogue, there's no opportunity for any type of change or any type of growth. So these things are doing what they need to do. So we have to keep on doing those things little by little, bit by bit. And as they start to push the envelope, then more and more organizations are going to start mentioning these things. And it seems strange though, and it's a lonely place at the top. It's a lonely situation when you're the only one mentioning it, and all of these people who you've known and may even be in your family, that they've gone to church for 30 and 40 years and they never heard of some of the things that you're talking about, so they think you're strange. So you have to be willing to be strange for a second until they catch on. See, that's what a trendsetter life is all about. Being strange first until everybody else start doing it. Then you're not strange. Now the people who not doing what you're doing, now they're strange. But you got to make the decision whether or not you're willing to deal with that. But brother, would you read the oracles and entreat the angel that stands at the door to come in and sup with us and us with him, that we may make this a holy convocation by the angel's presence?
1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received a gift, even so minister the same one to another, as good stewards of the manifold of grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as their children and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth. Therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 through 21. Behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in the way and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right, we're going to begin today's sermon in Genesis chapter 12. Genesis chapter 12. And we're going to start that at verse 1. What we have to look at is that Yahweh does the same things over and over again. He operates in the same ways. Now, it is true that Yahweh is a peculiar Elohim, and we're set to be a peculiar people unto him. So his ways are not like man's ways, but when you start to look at how Yahweh does things, he does things in these patterns. And the more we go into this legacy that he has left unto us, the more we get to understand his ways, and that will help us as we start encountering things in our day-to-day lives when we understand how Yahweh moves. When you deal with parents, real parents, and their children, parents can hear certain things and know whether or not it was their kid that did it, because they know the manner of kid that they have. Now you have this new parent that don't really know, and they just gonna take the side of the child and not really know. There were times that I got in trouble at school, and my mama went straight to me because she said, no, that sounds like you. And then there's other times that she was like, no, I got to go up here. This don't sound right. She's like, I know your brand of crazy. See, that's what's wrong with certain people. They don't know their kid brand of crazy. So they don't know which type of thing is there. I can listen to certain things in my house and tell you which one of them kids did it. No. That was the big one right there. That was the big one. Then they tell me something else. Oh no, that was the little one. That was the little one, because she stirs up it all, and then she sends other people to go do her dirty work. See, I know the difference between the little one, which one did what. That's how we have to. This is the reason Yahweh left all of these things, so that we can understand him the way he understands us. See, once you understand how he dealt with certain situations, you start to have a deeper connection with Yahweh, that you can shout and you can dance and you can scream. That ain't gonna help you understand the creator of all things. These things are here for a reason. And when you see how he dealt with it the same way the kids do, sometimes I can hear them when I come around the corner. They're like, oh, daddy gonna get you. Because they already know, no. I remember I did something just like that. He told me I had to pee. Daddy gonna get you. I can hear one of the other ones telling them, oh, you gonna get it. I can tell you how you gonna get it too. Right. They learning. They said, no. I know my folks. This is the way you need to learn Yahweh. So when certain things start to happen, You can know, you know what? I'm gonna need to do my wilderness two-step and step away from this conversation. Cause I think something about to happen over here. Cause I know how Yahweh work. So I'm gonna step away from this. Cause this don't seem like nothing I need to be close to. Genesis chapter 12, and let's start this at verse 1. Genesis chapter 12 and verse 1. I need to say it loud. I think he got used to me hollering, so so if I say it calm, I really didn't mean it. What's wrong with this cat?
Now Yahweh had said unto Abram, Get you out of your country, from your kindred, and from your father's house, unto a land that I will show you.
Right, there's certain times when Yahweh is getting ready to do something with you that he can't do it among all your family and kindred, because all they're going to do is remind you of every bad thing that you've ever done. They're going to remind you, you can't be such and such. How you going to be a this? How you going to be a Hebrew? Well, you the same one that set that such and such on fire. Wasn't that you that went to that party and did such and such? They're going to remind you of all those things. So even Yahshua couldn't do many blessings in the same place where he was brought up, because their disbelief. He couldn't even do many miracles there. And the same thing is going to happen to you. You're not going to be able to do a whole bunch of things around those people, because they're going to constantly remind you, you ain't no better than me. What you all of a sudden, oh, now you going to wear a whole dress. I remember you wore half a dress to James' party. Right. And where does extra dress come from? Right. Go ahead.
And I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you, and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless you, and curse him that curseth you, and in you shall all families of the earth be blessed. So Abraham departed, as Yahweh had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran.
Let me tell you something. It's very difficult for somebody to be up in age and then make changes like that in their life. There's a reason why they had that term over the hill, because everybody just won't coast down after that. They're like, look, I ain't trying to climb no more hills. I just ride the wave, baby. Just coast it on down. This is some pretty deep stuff that Yahweh starts dealing with these people after they've got set in their ways. And we're creatures of habit. The more we get, don't take us but 1 or 2 times to get used to something, and it's seared in our brain. You don't believe me? Take home flowers about 2 weeks in a row. See what happened on that 3rd week. So where the flowers? I mean, I was being nice. Well, you shouldn't have been nice 2 weeks in a row. Because now it's a done deal, right? It don't take long for that stuff to get set up in there. Go ahead.
Verse 5. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran. And they went forth to go into the land of Canaan, and into the land of Canaan they came. And Abram passed through the land unto the place of Sychem, unto the plain of Moreh. And the Canaanite was then in the land. And Yahweh appeared unto Abram, and said, Unto your seed will I give this land. And there built he an altar unto Yahweh, who appeared unto him.
Right. Yahweh says, I'm going to give you the land, but somebody else is already in the land. Do you have enough faith to believe that Yahweh can give you something that somebody else already occupies? Go ahead.
And he removed from thence unto a mountain on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west, and Hai on the east. And there he built an altar unto Yahweh, and called upon the name of Yahweh. And Abram journeyed, going on still toward the south. And there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land.
Right. Yahweh didn't intend on him to stay in the land at that time, because he was going to be absorbed amongst those Canaanites. So Yahweh then had him, he's going through this land. So sometimes Yahweh is just going to bring you to a point where he's going to show you what your seed shall inherit, but you're going to go right through. Go ahead.
Verse 11. And it came to pass, when he was come near to enter into Egypt, that he said unto Sarai his wife, Behold, now I know that you are a fair woman to look upon. Therefore it shall come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see you, that they shall say, This is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will save you alive. Say, I pray you, you are my sister, that it may be well with me for your sake, and my soul shall live because of you. And it came to pass that when Abram was come into Egypt, the Egyptians beheld the woman that she was very fair. The princes also of Pharaoh saw her, and commended her before Pharaoh, and the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house.
And you know how hard this got to be to see your wife going to somebody else's house? Go ahead.
And he entreated Abram well for her sake. And he had sheep and oxen, and he asses, and men servants, and maid servants, and she asses, and camels. And Yahweh plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this that you have done unto me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Why saideth you, She is my sister? So I might have taken her to me to wife. Now therefore behold your wife, take her, and go your way. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away, and his wife, and all that he had. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him into the south. And Abram was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold.
Okay, so he went through the land, went somewhere else, and ended up coming up with all of these things. And it's a pretty bad situation that ended up happening to Pharaoh because of this woman. But there is this thing called diligent inquiry, which is what we don't like to do. When it comes down to relationship, all we have to do is see somebody. Whoo, they very fair to look upon. I'm ready to get hitched. He said, man, why you ain't tell me that this woman was your wife? You have to wonder how many questions he asked. He asked one, who this? My sister? Good. Good. That's good right there. That's so good. Yeah, come on in, sister. Right. Right. He didn't want to know nothing else. Because he liked what he saw. See, these things are in here for a reason. See? How many situations will you get yourself in? Because you look, you don't want to ask no question. What you believe in? I don't really care. Who really care? Come on in, sister. Sit on down. Right. You're going to know eventually. Go ahead.
You know, even in the situation of Pharaoh, it was, what was it, like a hookup? Because the princes commended her to Pharaoh. Mm-hmm. And then she was taken to his house.
Mm-hmm. What? Everybody saw what she looked like. And all they could see is what she looked like. But see, when Yahweh has his protection over his people, it ain't going to go well with you. Left or right, even if you didn't intend on doing them wrong. You do Yahweh's servants wrong, and something going to happen to you. One way or another. I don't have to worry about getting vengeance on nobody that did anything to me. I just sit back and watch. And people come and tell me, yeah, man, you know such and such. Really? I ain't got to do that. It's not my job. Vengeance don't belong to me. It belongs to Yahweh. Yahweh's servants, he going to take care of their business. Go ahead.
Genesis chapter 13 and verse 3. And he went on his journeys from the south even to Bethel, unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai, unto the place of the altar which he had made there at the first. And there Abram called on the name of Yahweh. And Lot also, which went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents. And the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together. For their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together. And there was a strife between the herdmen of Abram's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle. And the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelt then in the land.
All right, now in this place in verse 3, and he went on his journeys from the south even to Bethel, unto the place where his tent had been in the beginning. So he went down through Canaan land into Egypt, and then he went back up. So he was in the south of Canaan, and then he went down and then coming back up. He went down because of the famine that was there, and Yahweh is using these famines and these other things to move his people where he need them to be. Because although this Canaan land was something that he was going to give him, it was not fitting for him to be in there at that particular time. Timing is very important. Go ahead.
Verse 8. And Abram said unto Lot, Let there be no strife, I pray you, between me and you, and between my herdmen and your herdmen, for we be brethren. Is not the whole land before you? Separate yourself, I pray you, from me. If you will take the left hand, then I will go to the right. Or if you depart to the right hand, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld all the plain of Jordan, and it was well watered everywhere, before Yahweh destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of Yahweh, like the land of Egypt, as you cometh unto Zoar. Then Lot chose him all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves the one from the other.
Right. So once again, he see what looks good to his eyes. There's no indication of what kind of people are in there. There's no, any checking of any of that. It's just this land looks favorably in a physical form. This is where I'm going to go. Go ahead.
Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelt in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent toward Sodom. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before Yahweh exceedingly. And Yahweh said unto Abram, after that Lot was separated from him.
And see, this is the stuff that some of you are waiting for. And Yahweh said unto Abram, after that Lot was separated from him. All Yahweh waiting for is for you to separate from some of those people. Because Yahweh was setting this for Abram. He the one brought Lot. Now when it gets down to this point, it is after Lot has separated. Now he's talking to him again. Go ahead.
Lift up now your eyes, and look from the place where you art northward, and southward, and eastward, and westward. For all the land which you seeth, to you will I give it, and to your seed forever. And I'll make your seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then shall your seed also be numbered.
Right, and Lot has nothing to do with that. See, that's the point here. That there's a strife, there's a problem between him and Lot. Now he loves Lot. He brought Lot because this is his family, but he has absolutely nothing to do with this covenant. So Yahweh caused that problem in between them, so Lot can pick wherever he wanted to go. And as soon as Lot's gone, then Yahweh is entering deeper into this covenant. There's not a mistake here. This is happening for a reason. Go ahead.
Arise, walk through the land in the length of it and in the breadth of it, for I will give it unto you. Then Abram removed his tent and came and dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and built there an altar unto Yahweh.
Now understand that all of these things are being given unto Moshe, and Moshe is the one that is putting these things down. So these things are kind of written in hindsight, so he knows the name of Yahweh at the time that all of these things are given unto him. But what they knew was El and El Shaddai. So they didn't know Yahweh at the time that these things were happening, but Moshe knew the name of Yahweh when it was time to put these things down. So don't let that confuse you when you go and you read these things in Genesis and you see all caps Lord, because if you get further down, it'll tell you that he appeared unto Abraham and Isaac into the name of El and El Shaddai. They did not know Yahweh, but this Torah is called the books of Moshe. So understand how that name got in here. Let's go to Genesis chapter 41. Genesis chapter 41, and we're going to read that through chapter 42 and verse 8.
And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine and fat flesh, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and lean flesh, and stood by the other kine upon the brink of the water. And the ill-favored and lean-flesh kind did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat kine. So Pharaoh awoke, and he slept and dreamed the second time. And, behold, 7 ears of corn came up upon one stalk, rank and good. And, behold, 7 thin ears and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them. And the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 rank and full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and, behold, it was a dream. And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt, and all the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh. Then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day. Pharaoh was angry with his servants, and put me in the ward in the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. And we dreamed a dream in one night, I and he. We dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And there was there with us a young man, an Hebrew, servant to the captain of the guard. And we told him, and he interpreted to us our dreams. To each man according to his dream he did interpret.
Now, if we read, we find that there's a constant interaction between the Hebrew Israelites and the Egyptians. There's a constant living together and dealing with one another. Now, even in these people who now live in the land calling themselves the Egyptians, we know that they are not the ancient Egyptians, but even in what they show us now with the Euro Gentiles have given us a depiction of Christ and what the true Jews look like. They can't even reconcile that with the people that are in the land calling themselves Egyptians, because the children of Israel often hid amongst the Egyptians. They dealt with the Egyptians, and there were times that people could not tell them apart. So if that's the case, then their image of Christ should at least look like the people who in Egypt now, if they claim that they're the ancient Egyptians, and it doesn't fit. Go ahead.
Verse 13. And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so it was. Me he restored unto mine office, and him he hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And he shaved himself, and changed his raiment, and came in unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of you that you cannot understand a dream to interpret it.
Now, this gift has now gotten him in the presence of Pharaoh. This same dream, this same gift of being able to interpret dreams is the same thing that got him thrown into the jail in the first place. Because his brothers had envy against him, and they did not like these dreams that he had. So now that thing caused him a problem. They ended up selling him, and he ended up being a servant and then thrown in jail. Now he's coming out of the dungeon, and now the same gift is now presenting something for him. Go ahead.
And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not me. Elohim shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, In my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river. And, behold, there came up out of the river 7 kine, fat-fleshed and well-favored, and they fed in a meadow. And, behold, 7 other kine came up after them, poor and very ill-favored and lean flesh, such as I never saw in all the land of Egypt for badness. And the lean and the ill-favored kine did eat up the first 7 fat kine. And when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them, but they were still ill-favored, as at the beginning. So I awoke. And I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears came up in one stalk, full and good. And behold, 7 ears withered, thin, and blasted with the east wind, sprung up after them. And the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. And I told this unto the magicians, but there was none that could declare it to me. And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, The dream of Pharaoh is one. Elohim has showed Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good kine are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dream is one. And the 7 thin and ill-favored kine that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What Elohim is about to do he showeth unto Pharaoh. Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. And there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous. And for that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. It is because the thing is established by Elohim, and Elohim will shortly bring it to pass.
Right. It happened twice because Yahweh is giving this double fold thing to show that it is established. Go ahead.
Now therefore let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the 5th part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years. And let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. And that food shall be for store to the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, Can we find such a one as this is, a man in whom the spirit of Elohim is? And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, Forasmuch as Elohim have showed you all this, there's none so discreet and wise as you are. You shall be over my house, and according unto my word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than you.
Right. According
to all your word.
Right. Unto your word. Go ahead.
And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from off his hand, and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck.
And to this day, my brother want to show he got something, he put a gold chain around his neck. To this day. You read the things that start talking about the priest, what it say? They end up having a gold chain around their neck. So we thought Run DMC was crazy. They had the big old dookie ropes. What? They had the big chains. What? Here it is right here. As soon as they get a position of power, they got a gold chain around their neck. Go ahead.
Verse 43. And he made him to ride in the 2nd chariot which he had. And they cried before him, bow the knee, and he made him ruler over the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without you shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's names Zephnath-Paaneah, and he gave him to wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On.
Right. Now you also see, you see several things in this. First, the push of the heathen to make sure and change the names to fit the gods that they worship, which is the very things that we're dealing with today, where people call upon this name of Jesus, not understanding in the 1611 print of the King James Bible, there is the name of Jesus is not even in it, because there was no J in the English language in 1611. The J did not come into the English language until after the 1630s. Then you start seeing this name of Jesus. It was Jesus, and even in Jesus, that was changed to fit their pagan god Zeus. So the entire thing, this is just something that normally happens with the heathen. The heathen has to change these names because in the change of name, there's a change of culture. By giving a certain name, you automatically arrive in your mindset what that person looks like. See, if they say such and such, you ran into a guy and said, what was that guy's name? His name was Bob. You got an image in your head of what you think a Bob looked like. Now when they say, oh man, I gotta go pick up my tires, what's the guy's name? His name Pookie. You got a different image of what that guy looked like. It wasn't the same image as Bob. Now what? Right. So there's power in changing these names. See, there's power in changing these names because that's the image that they're going to be able to give people later through the name. There's a reason why. I don't know if y'all watched the new Roots and looked at some of that. There's a reason why they gave them those new names. It's your Christian name. You can't be Kunta Kinte. You got to be this, because by taking this name, you are going to take on this culture, which allows them to rule over you better, because now you do the things that they do. This is why we have the names that we have, and we don't really understand what that's all about. Go ahead.
And Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. Verse 46. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went throughout all the land of Egypt. And in the 7 plenteous years the earth brought forth by handfuls. And he gathered up all the food of the 7 years, which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up the food in the cities. The food of the field, which was round about every city, laid he up in the same. And Joseph gathered corn as the sand of the sea, very much, until he left numbering, for it was without number. And unto Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine came, which Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bare unto him.
Then you'll find that before any of these instructions are given, that Israel are supposed to stay unto the tribe of their fathers. When it comes down to marrying, you'll see that each time that one of these people are sent out and have to live with strangers, you find that they're given a daughter of a priest to marry. They don't just marry anybody. See, that is the best that the heathen has to offer, the daughter of the priest. Go ahead.
And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh. For Elohim, said he, has made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. And the name of the second called he Ephraim, for Elohim hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. And the 7 years of plenteousness that was in the land of Egypt were ended. And the 7 years of dearth began to come, according as Joseph had said. And the dearth was in all lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. And when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. And Pharaoh said unto all the Egyptians, Go unto Joseph. What he said to you, do. And the famine was over all the face of the earth. And Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold unto the Egyptians. And the famine waxed sore in the land of Egypt. And all the countries came into Egypt to Joseph for to buy corn, because that the famine was so sore in all lands. Now when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, Why do you look one upon another? And he said, Behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. Get you down thither, and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die. And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob sent not with his brethren, for he said, Lest peradventure mischief befall him. And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. And Joseph was the governor over the land, and he it was that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed themselves before him with their faces to the earth. And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly unto them. And he said unto them, Whence come you? And they said, From the land of Canaan to buy food. And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him.
Right. Now, Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him, because he had a different name. He ended up speaking to them by an interpreter, as if he didn't really understand the language of the Hebrews. If you remember, coming out of the jail, the first thing was he was shaved. The Egyptians end up shaving all their hair and stuff off. So he got some good clothing, a gold chain, and a new name, but they did not recognize him as their brother. He recognized them, but they didn't recognize him. This lets you know how closely the sons of Ham and the Shemites, the children of Israel, looked alike. And when you try to reconcile that in the land of Israel now, it don't match. It don't match. You can't look at the people in Israel and then look at the people in Egypt and say they look so much alike that you would confuse them. And the same thing happened over and over. They accused Saul of being an Egyptian. They said, ain't you that Egyptian that led down all these other men? He's, man, I ain't no Egyptian, I'm Hebrew. So you find these same things. So in the beginning, you find Abram ended up going down into Egypt because of a famine. Now you find Yaakov and his family having to go down to Egypt for this famine. You find that Yahweh ends up doing the same things over and over. But instead of sending somebody to float down the way and tell them to move, there's situation and circumstances that push their path. Let's go to Matthew chapter 2. Matthew chapter 2, and we're going to start there at verse 1.
Now when Yahshua was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem.
Okay, now the first thing is, now when Jesus was born, just by giving that name, there's a certain image that's going to pop in your head. Why? Because this is a Greek name. This is not a Hebrew name. His name is Yahshua. So there's a part of their conquering spirit even in the part of inputting this name here. Go ahead.
Saying, where is he that is born king of the Yehudis? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him. When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him.
Right. People always talking about the Star of David. The Star of David is Yahshua. So you can take that little star, that little image that people got, you can throw that away. Go ahead.
And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where the Mashiach should be born. And they said unto him, in Bethlehem of Yehuda, for thus it is written by the prophet. And though Bethlehem in the land of Judea are not the least among the princes of Judea, for out of you shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel. Then Herod, when he had privily called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, go and search diligently for the young child, and when you have found him, bring me word again, that I may come and worship him also.
Right. Now, this star moved about and sat over where the child was. Stars don't move like that. That was an angel directing them to where this child was going to be. A star don't move and just move and get to one place and sit. That wasn't no star. So people try to use bits and pieces to set up their other little worship so they can have those things run like parallel streets. They'll say that it's about this thing, but it's about this thing over here. So that way they can get to keep all their images and all their other practices and worship from the other gods that they worshiped before. Go ahead.
Verse 9. When they had heard the king, they departed. And lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was.
Right. Now what star you ever seen do that right now? The star just move and then just sit. Yeah, this is where I'm gonna chill out right here. What kind of star is that? Go ahead.
When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And when they were come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. And being warned of Elohim in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their own country another way.
Right. And of course, we're always given this thing where they told us in verse 1, it said the wise men from the east. And you always ask people that question, how many wise men were? Because we saw that TV show, it said 3. They offered you a Chinaman, a white one, and a black one. But the only people that's looking for the king of the Yehudis is Israel. Ain't no Chinaman looking for no king of the children of Israel. And even when it's talking about Asia, it's talking about Asia Minor. It's not talking about the people in China. That's not what it's talking about. So there's some things that we've been given, just like that whole thing of Every time they show us something about a tree in the garden, everybody want to show you an apple, and it didn't tell you what kind of fruit it was. It told you wasn't supposed to eat it. They keep every time they show you this apple, they show you this apple, you know, and then we take those images. We don't understand the power of these images. You can read one thing, but those images, when they get in your head, they are hard to get out. Go ahead.
Verse 13. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Adonai appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be you there until I bring you word.
Now, once again, we're finding now that they're fleeing into Egypt to hide the Mashiach there. Now, if those people don't look alike, it is impossible to hide somebody who looks totally different among these people. I mean, if somebody brought a little blue-eyed white baby and set him right there and said, just hide right there. And then the authorities said, we're looking for a little blue-eyed white boy. He right there. He stick out like a sore thumb. They gonna see him. Now, if you gonna hide a little white boy with blue eyes, you got to hide him among other white people with blue eyes. You can't hide him around a bunch of chocolate chips. That's not gonna work. He gonna stick out. He's not gonna hide there. So when you understand the story, the images that were given unto us don't make sense. But see, people don't want to get and tell you the importance of these images. You have to understand that if our kids are learning this from their youth up, then they are learning this Bible from a white supremacist view, and learning that, believing that nothing in this book represents them, when it's actually the opposite. Everything in this book represents them. So this means that our kids are being taught in a way that makes them automatically feel inferior, because everything that they're reading, they don't think any of it has anything to do with them and their people. That's a problem. To the point where you got black people wanting to bleach their skin and cut their nose off. Now we want to be somebody else. But who knows that low self-esteem could have very well started right here out of this Bible, because of the images that people put in our head, so that when we read it, we see the wrong images. Go ahead.
For Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. Verse 14. When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed into Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken of the Adonai by the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt have I called my son.
Out of Egypt have I called my son. So we find that this going back and forth and dealing with Egypt, you have to understand they're closely related. Remember, what was it said? It was only an 11 days journey coming out of Egypt, and he kept them out there 40 years. They weren't out there 40 years because it was a long distance. They was out there 40 years because they were disobedient. Go ahead.
Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding angry, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem and all the coast thereof, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men. Then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet, saying, In Ramah was there a voice heard, lamentation and weeping and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children, and would not be comforted, because they are not. But when Herod was dead, behold, an angel of the Adonai appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother, and go into the land of Israel, for they are dead which sought the young child's life.
Right. So here in this time, then they are in Egypt hiding from the killing of the Hebrew children. Go ahead.
And he arose and took the young child and his mother, and came into the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus did reign in Judea in the room of his father Herod, he he was afraid to go thither. Notwithstanding, being warned of Elohim in a dream, he turned aside into the parts of Galilee.
Now, consider this. Verse 19, but when Herod was dead, behold, an angel of Yahweh appeared to in a dream to Joseph, saying, arise and take the young child and his mother and go into the land of Israel, for they are dead which sought the young child's life. And he arose and took the young child and his mother and came into the land of Israel. But then he heard that Archelaus did reign in Judea, and the room is his father Herod. He was afraid to go there. Notwithstanding being warned of Elohim in a dream, he turned aside into the parts of Galilee. Now you think that Yahweh didn't know that when he told him to get up and move? He didn't find out that other information until he got close enough to get that word. Then he got more instructions. See, our problem is we want everything out front. We want to know every bit of the detail before we start moving. And that's not how Yahweh works. Go ahead.
And he came and dwelt in a city called Nazareth, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophets, he shall be called a Nazarene.
And as it is written, does any good thing come out of Nazareth? But Yahweh wanted him to grow up there. See, we work and try our best to get our kids and put them in, nice schools and the nicest this and the nicest that. Yahweh said, no, I want my kid to grow up in the hood. Put him in Nazareth. Yeah, he gonna learn some stuff in there. Right. Yahweh could have put his kid in the best town. He could have put him in the best school. He said, no. He needs some hood learning. Let him grow up in Nazareth. They said, does any good thing come out of Nazareth? That's what they said. Does any good thing come out of Decatur? Does any good thing come out of Stone Mountain? They can say the same thing for us. Yahweh wanted him to be there. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you got to consider, being in Israel, they had already set foundation, was comfortable there. Then you're being told to go down into Egypt. They've been in Egypt for a while, and once again, set roots and foundation. Mm-hmm. Going back to Israel was comfortable because we know there. But then, if he had known that, he probably would have never did the journey. No, we're good. We've already established things here.
Right. But see, we are creatures of habit, and once we get set in anything, there are people that stay in all kind of bad situations just because they're used to it. There's a whole lot of people that, as you go to talk to them, they understand that things are not being done according to this book in the congregation that they're in. But they're comfortable there, so they're going to stay there. Well, I know everybody, and, I've gotten comfortable. Right. But this way Yahweh say, we'll worry about that. When, all right. And you let them be. People are comfortable where they are, but do understand something. Every man gonna get judged for his own deeds. And all your friends not gonna be sitting there holding your hand when it come time for a man to answer for his deeds. See? That's the things that people are not considering. Let's go to Exodus chapter 1. So we have Yahshua having to go hide amongst the Egyptians, and we know that the Egyptians are people of color. It lets us know that they are Hamites, and we know that Ham means burnt or hot. So for the children of Israel to be able to hide amongst Hamites, who we call Africans, they would have to have been dark colored people. But we watched this. We just didn't really know what we was watching when they put out the movie Malcolm X. Malcolm X said in jail when he was going back and forth with the chaplain. He said, "Isn't it true that the first Hebrews were black?" So the Muslims always knew that the children of Israel were people of color. So you have to ask yourself why they end up having to kill Malcolm. Now, all these decades later, here come King Louis. He done popped up talking about Louis Farrakhan, he done popped up saying, oh, black people are the real children of Israel. He ain't just now figured that out. Malcolm said that. But he made sure he made all the money he could make. Then he turned around and tell them that they the children of Israel. But yet, he's still worshiping Allah. And I don't understand no Allah Israelites. I don't understand how you do that. That ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work. So you're gonna have to figure out where you gonna go. You either gonna go left or you gonna go right. But you can't walk in both directions. Something ain't gonna work. Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 1 and verse 1. Now these are the names of the children of Israel which came into Egypt. Every man in his household came with Jacob. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Yehuda. Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin. Dan and Naphtali, Gad and Asher. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls, for Joseph was in Egypt already. And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation. And the children of Israel were fruitful, and increased abundantly, and multiplied, and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph.
So consider, so now they left Canaan because of this famine, ended up coming into Egypt, and now they are multiplying, but amongst themselves, even while in another country. Because their practices are different enough from these Egyptians that there has to be a separation from them, because they worship the very animals that we eat. So there's enough separation there, although there is a situation where they look similar. There's a difference in their practices. This allowed for us to multiply and grow inside of another country. Go ahead.
Verse 9. And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land.
Right, and people read this and say, this some Old Testament stuff. People always telling you to stay out of the Old Testament, but what they don't want to tell you is to this very day, people have those same issues. When what was it, World War II? They end up locking up all the Asians because they felt like the Asians were gonna rise up to and join against America, so they threw those people in concentration camp. Then afterwards, they end up paying them people. That's why you got a nail salon on every corner in your neighborhood. They got money to be there. They got paid. They got reparations for what happened to them. They put all of them, just rounded them up for no reason at all. Then they turn around and pay them. Ain't nobody paid you. But that's Yahweh's doing. So people read this and say, stuff like that could not happen today. Oh yeah, it happened. Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 1 and verse 11. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses.
Right. And people want to try to tell you that, the children of Israel are Caucasians or Euro Gentiles, really. But we know that Caucasians are not going to be able to work day after day in the hot sun building all of those things. It's not possible. They might work one day, but that second day, that sunburn is real. That's not gonna work. And then they're doing this over and over and over. Go ahead.
But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And they were grieved because of the children of Israel.
Right. They attempted to afflict them by working them harder and harder. When you look at how we work, nobody else works as hard as we work here. The same things are happening unto us. Come Thursday and Friday, I can see the people. When I end up working in Alpharetta, I started trying to figure out what was the other way down 400? Because come Thursday, all these cars kept going the other way, and I was like, where the hell are they going? Traffic supposed to be this way. I'm coming out of Alpharetta, but come Thursday, it's traffic going the other way early. Then I start seeing boats and jet skis, and I'm going out. They going this way. What is that way? Oh, they going to the lake. What? Then they starting at Thursday. What? So they getting up. That's the end of their work week. Come Thursday and Friday, they heading to the lake. You got to be kidding me. So I start moving early, and I see all of them heading to Lake Lanier, heading to go to the lake Thursday and Friday. We still working. We still getting it in. Right. Everybody don't work like us. When you look at some of the hardest jobs, look at who in those jobs. We are. Then look at who the managers on those jobs. They are. Right. Overseers, taskmasters. The same thing. It's set up the same way now. It's just a little more humane than it used to be. But it's the same setup. Go ahead.
Verse 13. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor, and they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field. All their service, wherein they made them serve, was with rigor. And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, when you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then you shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live.
Right. When you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, it's a woman's job to deliver babies. I keep telling these brothers, it is a wicked thing for a man doctor to be sitting there in between your wife's legs waiting for the baby to come out. See, we have accepted this wicked setup that they've given us. There was a whole league of black midwives, and they ran them all out of town. They made sure that they had to have regulation. See, the way they do their things now is they discriminate by policy. They pass policies that force those people out of business. So now you have these people that end up having to deal with men delivering babies. Even though Pharaoh was considered a man god, he's supposed to be all supreme, yet he had to go and ask these women to go and do this. Why? Because wasn't no man in there. Even when you watch the things of Roots, and they was delivering the baby, it was all them women in there. And when the dude came in there to see Kunta Kinte being born, them ladies said, get out of here. He had to turn around. My man didn't go worry. Yeah, get out of here. Man didn't got that. Right. Go ahead.
But the midwives feared Elohim, and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives, and said to them, why have you done this thing, and have saved the men children alive? And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively, and are delivered ere the midwives come in unto them.
Right. So, they lied. And you have to consider this. They done lied, and now Yahweh finna bless them because they lie. Go ahead.
Therefore Elohim dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty.
So, you got a lie versus a murder. Which one you gonna do? Lie, please. I'll take that lie. Let me get a lie combo. Can I supersize that lie, please? I go ahead and take that lie. Because I'm not finna murder these people. Now, these babies. So, they done got put in a bad situation. Murder or lie? No, I'm not gonna do that. And see, people think that that's a strange thing. The same thing is happening to us now. They're just doing it in more humane ways. That's what all these vaccines are about. We got more ailments than we ever had. We have more ailments than people in supposed third world countries. How are we having all these issues? These shots that they are trying to give us have all manner of disgusting things inside of them. They're using animal brains, animal fetus, baby parts, all of these things they put into these shots. And now they pass laws that you can't sue the people who make the vaccine. So they putting all kind of mercury in them. Mercury makes our cells sickle. So then you have these people who have sickle cell. Where'd it come from? These vaccines. So the same thing that they're cutting down their numbers, trying to get the children of Israel from multiplying, same thing's happening to us now. That's why you have an industrial prison complex. It was not there until they outlawed slavery. They outlawed slavery, and then here come the prison system. They go hand in hand. It was not even there until you were free. So all that you don't do with your children, don't worry. The prison complex will. They can't find a job, don't worry. The prison complex will put them to work. They make like $25 a day. Don't worry. They got something set up for you. But see, because these things are now done through policy, we don't see them now. We don't see them. They don't jump right at you. Because it's done through policy and not with yelling and shouting and things of that nature. But it's still there. We're still being put in a position whereby our numbers are not able to be what it should be. See, the whole thing of arresting all the men, you cannot multiply and build a nation if all the men are locked up. So that automatically cuts down our ability to multiply as a nation. Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 1 and verse 21. And it came to pass, because the midwives feared Elohim, that he made them houses.
Right, he made them houses because they feared Elohim more than they feared Pharaoh. Go ahead.
And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born you shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive.
Every daughter you shall save alive. Why? Because the women are going to be absorbed into the culture. Their children shall be of the offspring of their fathers. So they're not worried about the women, just the men. So we see in one instance, the Messiah has to run to Egypt to hide from the killing of the Hebrew Israelites. Then you go back to the beginning, and then the Hebrew Israelite children are being killed in Egypt. Yahweh sets up these things in parallel, and you can go back and forth and see the same things. And when you start to understand the movement of Yahweh, then maybe it'll help you understand the movement of Yahweh in your life. Go to chapter 2. Keep reading.
And there went a man of the house of Levi, and took to wife a daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived and bare a son. And when she saw him that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months.
Right. Now, and there went, why do you think it even mentioned that? There is no organized law per se at this point about this marriage per se. All of these things are given at a later date, that the children of Israel are supposed to stay with their own tribes. So this is before that time, and yet it's saying, and there went out a man of the house of Levi, and he took to wife a daughter of Levi. This is a full-blooded priest. This is of the Levitical priesthood, and he ain't said nothing about the Levitical priesthood. But there's a reason why he said a man of Levi marries a woman of Levi. Now you got this thing starting. Go ahead.
And when she could no longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrush, and daubed it with slime and with pitch, and put the child therein. And she laid it in the flags by the river's brink. And his sister stood afar off, to see what would be done to him. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked along by the river's side. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him, and said, this is one of the Hebrews' children.
Right, because she know that they was supposed to be killed. Go ahead.
Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call to you a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for you? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, go. And the maid went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, Take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give you your wages. And the woman took the child and nursed it. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moshe. And she said, Because I drew him out of the water. And it came to pass in those days when Moshe was grown, that he went out unto his brethren, and looked on their burdens. And he spied an Egyptian smiting an Hebrew, one of his brethren. And he looked this way and that way, and when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian, and hid him in the sand. And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strove together. And he said to him that did the wrong, Wherefore smiteth you your fellow? And he said, Who made you a prince and a judge over us? Intended you to kill me as you killed the Egyptian? And Moshe feared, and said, Surely this thing is known. Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moshe. But Moshe fled from the face of Pharaoh, and dwelt in the land of Midian. And he sat down by a well.
Right. So now he's forcing, although now this man has grown up amongst Pharaoh as one of the children in the house, learning all of those things. Now he's being forced out of Egypt and has to go live somewhere else. Go ahead.
Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water, and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. And the shepherds came and drove them away. But Moshe stood up and helped them, and watered their flock. And when they came to Reuel, their father, he said, How is it that you are come so soon today? And they said, An Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us, and watered the flock. And he said unto his daughters, And where is he? Why is it that you have left the man? Call him, that he may eat bread. And Moshe was content to dwell with the man, and he gave Moshe Zipporah his daughter.
Once again, you find this man amongst strange people, and then the woman that he ends up marrying then ends up being the daughter of a priest. Go ahead.
And she bare him a son, and he called his name Gershom. For he said, I have been a stranger in a strange land. And it came to pass in process of time that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage. And they cried, and their cry came up unto Elohim by reason of the bondage. And Elohim heard their groaning, and Elohim remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And Elohim looked upon the children of Israel, and Elohim had respect unto them.
All right, let's go to Exodus chapter 19. Exodus 19, and let's read verses 1 through 6.
Verse 1. In the 3rd month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai. For they were departed from Rephidim, and were come to the desert of Sinai, and had pitched in the wilderness, and there Israel camped before the mount. And Moshe went up unto Elohim, and Yahweh called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shall you say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, You have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be unto me a kingdom of priests, and an holy nation. These are the words which you shall speak unto the children of Israel.
And you shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. So when you find these things happening where these brothers are getting sent from place to place, they cannot just marry any type of woman. Let's go to 1 Peter chapter 2.
First Peter chapter 2 and verse 1. Wherefore, laying aside all malice, and all guile, and hypocrisies, and envies, and all evil speakings, As newborn babes, desire the sincere milk of the word, that you may grow thereby. If so be you have tasted that the Adonai is gracious, to whom coming as unto a living stone, disallowed indeed of men, but chosen of Elohim, and precious. You also, as lively stones, are built up a spiritual house, and holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices, acceptable to Elohim by Yahshua the Mashiach.
Right. You also as lively stones, not as regular rocks that build up a house. You are lively stones that build up a spiritual house. So then there must be spiritual sacrifices that we offer up unto Elohim. Go ahead.
Wherefore also it is contained in the scripture, Behold, I lay up in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect, precious, and he that believeth on him shall not be confounded. Unto you therefore which believe he is precious, but unto them which be disobedient, the stone which the builder disallowed, the same is made the head of the corner. And a stone of stumbling, a rock of offense, even to them which stumble at the word, being disobedient, whereunto also they were appointed. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, an holy nation.
Right. You are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and holy nation. These things are not said by Saul. These things, Saul, the apostle that they call Paul, he was the apostle to the Euro Gentiles. You're having Cephas, Peter, who is saying these things, and he is the apostle to the children of Israel. What people want to give us is a one size doctrine, one doctrine that fits everybody, but it's not so. There's a different direction for the Euro Gentile than it is for the children of Israel. So when you read the writings of Saul, you won't hear anything talking about a kingdom of priests and holy nation, because he's dealing with the Gentiles. Peter is not dealing with the Gentiles. He's dealing with the children of Israel. This is why when there was a question about whether or not the Euro Gentiles should have to do circumcision, who they had to go and ask? They had to go and ask Peter. Go ahead.
A peculiar people, that you should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light, which in time past were not a people, but are now the people of Elohim, which had not obtained mercy, but now have obtained mercy. Dearly beloved, I beseech you as strangers and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts, which war against the soul, having your conversation honest among the Gentiles, that, whereas they speak against you as evildoers, they may by your good works, which they shall behold, glorify Elohim in the day of visitation.
Now, having your conversation is not just what you say, your conversation is what you do. Having your conversation honest among the Gentiles. This is what was stated to the children of Israel. But now you fast forward to all this time, now they want to tell you that the children of Israel have become Gentiles. It says have your conversation honest among the Gentiles. Not that the children of Israel have become Gentiles. Now they are giving you Gentiles, and this is the problem that we have in some of these congregations, that you have Gentile ran organizations and they're telling you that they're the children of Israel and you're the Gentile. And when you back up to Genesis 10 and do the research, that doesn't fit. Go ahead.
Verse 13. Submit yourselves to every ordinance of man for the Adonai's sake, whether it be to king as supreme, or unto governors as unto them that are sent by him for the punishment of evildoers, and for the praise of them that do well.
Understand, the children of Israel has started to be scattered about. So you try your best to keep the laws of that land, but not to the point where it goes against Yahweh's law. Go ahead.
For so is the will of Elohim, that with well-doing you may put to silence the ignorance of foolish men, as free and not using your liberty for a cloak of maliciousness, but as the servants of Elohim. Honor all men, love the brotherhood, fear Elohim, honor the king. Servants, be subject to your masters with all fear, not only to the good and gentle, but also to the froward.
Now, this is the kind of stuff that they will read to us in slavery. Now, be good to them, all right? Be good. You be good to your masters. Be good. Read that again. So they made sure We saw this over and over, but there's certain parts that they didn't want to hear about, even in this Old Testament, about the children of Israel being slaves and being freed of that captivity. So it's certain things they didn't want our preachers to read. So you will find that just as there was an overseer in the field, there was an overseer in our churches. So the black people start going to church, it'd be a white man sitting in the back. He directing the pastor on making sure he ain't teaching them no funny business. Go ahead.
Verse 19. For this is thankworthy, if a man for conscience toward Elohim endure grief, suffering wrongfully. For what glory is it, if when you be buffeted for your faults, you shall take it patiently? But if, when you do well and suffer for it, you take it patiently, this is acceptable with Elohim. For even hereunto were you called, because the Messiah also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow his steps, who did no sin, neither was guile found in his mouth, who, when he was reviled not again, when he suffered, he threatened not, but committed himself to him that judges righteously, who his own self bare our sins in his own body on the tree, that we, being dead to sins, should live on to righteousness, by whose stripes you were healed. For you were as sheep going astray, but are now returned unto the shepherd and bishop of your souls.
All right, let's go to Isaiah chapter 61. Isaiah chapter 61, and let's start that at verse 1.
The spirit of the Adonai Elohim is upon me, because Yahweh hath anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He hath sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound.
Right. These are not things that was slavery friendly. They couldn't read this kind of stuff, because this would cause them to desire freedom. This would cause them to want to live a better life. It's talking about opening the prison, and I mean these people are bound and are being worked rigorously, even at the point of our people coming out of slavery. Don't you know that it's these kind of things that were very popular to our people? The Old Testament movement was very popular to our people coming out of slavery. It's this new age thing that took away all the Negro spirituals and gave us those gospel songs. See, they didn't want to hear about anything of slavery, because there was no connection made between slavery and the things that are written in Deuteronomy 28, that we are those people. So our people got away from dealing with anything of slavery. We're talking about one of the most traumatic things that our people have suffered, and parents won't talk to their kids about it. Yet that's not so in all these other nationalities. Everything that happened to their people, they talk about it. They have a remembrance of everything that happened to them. But they'll tell you if you do it, then you have some kind of racist agenda. So how is it you can talk about the things that were, horrible and horrific unto your people, but if we do it, then all of a sudden we're labeled as racist? And you must not fall for that trick. That's a trick of the devil. Go ahead.
Brother, even with the release of this New Roots series, understand it wasn't our people that brought it back.
Right.
It's a Gentile that brought it back. I had someone call me saying, "Oh, it's upsetting. It causes hatred." I said, "Well, the problem is your hatred is misplaced. You don't know where to put your hate.
Right.
You're hating the wrong people. And furthermore, if you let the hate get to you, you're gonna set up there. You're gonna fall right into the trap that they setting for you to go out there and do something stupid so they can lock you up."
And all the time we end up being angry at the in the wrong area, and putting all of this on the people who have done such and such, and not understanding that it's Yahweh your Elohim that took away your protection. And why did he do it? Because you wouldn't do the things in this book. So instead of being, angry at the Euro Gentiles, we should have been angry at ourselves for having all of this direction and deciding not to do any of it. And then Yahweh removed that protection. So instead of being mad at ourselves, now we want to be, and because it's easier to put that hate on somebody that we can, see, somebody that we can have access to. It's hard to say, I'm angry at Yahweh. See, we ain't gonna go that far. We ain't gonna go that far. But we'll say we angry with those people. Yeah, but how did those people get any power against you? Those people got power against you because you decided not to do what was in this book. Now, we ain't that angry though. See, we mad enough because if you just angry enough to go and do something, then that's trying to feed our vengeance. But we're not angry enough to change the way we live. Go ahead, bro.
But with the new roots, they're still trying to steer us away from our Hebrew.
Mm-hmm.
They're focusing a lot on Islam
in
this new one.
By showing us, but you have to understand, a lot of our people did convert into all those things as well. So there's one of those things where even in this whole ancestry movement that they keep trying to get people to do, there's a reason why we're being directed back to Africa. So we'll be content to just look at that last step and say, this is who you are as a people. Because understand, there are teachings that are coming out, and this is a problem to the powers that be. We're posing problems for the people who have presented all of these other things. And every other documentary that we've ever seen, everybody in the documentary is white. Every person in the Bible is white until you get to a bad person. Then all those people played by black people. This messes with the mind of our children. So now people are coming out doing other documentaries and putting other information out, and it's causing some issues. This whole African American thing was given to us for a reason. See, this generation thinks that we were always called African Americans. The first people, when they came out with that term, African American, man, they hated it. They said, man, don't call me no African American. I ain't no African. I don't know about no Africa. Why you calling me an African? They were upset. Now we've gotten so used to it, we think it's a term of distinction. I'm an African American. Right. Go talk to an African, see what he got to say. I don't have anything to do with you. Right. You are a cotton picker. He ain't nothing to do with you. He don't hang out with you. Right. But you call yourself an African American. He don't hang around with you. Right. Go ahead.
Isaiah chapter 61 and verse 2. To proclaim the acceptable year of Yahweh and the day of vengeance of our Elohim, to comfort all that mourn, to appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness.
Hold your place right there. Go to Yoel chapter 3. Because I know there's some people watching at home. The prophet said that was a really harsh statement. Pretty soft with me, man. He be saying some harsh stuff sometimes. I remember when I first started listening to my elder, I used to think that some of the stuff he was saying was harsh. And then I started learning, and I was like, oh wow, that wasn't harsh at all. Yoel chapter 3, and start that at verse 1.
For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Yehuda and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations, and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and I will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations, and parted my land. And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine that they might drink.
Right. Now, when we look at these documentaries, we see the same things. When we then see roots, see, this is the part they don't want to go into. You see these very same things, that our people being sold for cognac. They selling them for barrels of liquor. They also had it in the book of the Negroes. So ask the people who reside in the land who are converts to Judaism. Okay? You read in the book of Kings and you'll find where all of these people converted to Judaism. Now the converts are telling the real children of Israel that they don't belong. That ain't gonna work. And Yahweh ain't gonna let it work. See? So the converts can't produce this. Does Yahweh allow for people to convert to Judaism? Yes, he does. But the branches can't boast against the root. That ain't gonna work. Go ahead.
Verse 4. Yea, and what have you to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon?
Backtrack on those, you find out that those are Canaanites. Those are people who we know as Africans. Go ahead.
And all the coast of Palestine. Will you render me a recompense? And if you recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head. Because you have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. The children also of Yehuda and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the Grecians.
Okay, stop. So all we have to do is ask these people to provide a place whereby you were sold by Africans to Gentiles, and they can't produce it. We can. When we go and look up those slave forts, we found a fort of Yehuda. Wait a minute, why is there a fort of Yehuda that is a slave port? And it was places where we were sold, off the coast of Africa. So why is there off the coast of Africa a fort of Judah where the children of Israel are being sold? Right. Ask any other people where they can they present those things, and they cannot. So when I make some of these statements, then people say, oh, he's saying something harsh. How is it that when we talk about our history that we allow people to tell us that it's racist? When they can tell you year by year and exaggerate the numbers of what happened to them. And nobody ever accuses them of being racist. And we get to the point where we're getting this watered down view of Black History Month. This is the only time that people want to talk about our history. And when you think about what happens, your history, they only deal with it in this country. So in other words, they want you to believe that you are not a people until they enslaved you. We did you a favor by giving you all this Greek cotton to pick. What? Well, don't do me no more favors. Go ahead.
That you might remove them far from their border. Behold, I will raise them out of the place where you have sold them.
Where you have sold them. Other people can't produce what they were sold. They went somewhere on their own. They ain't the same. You got a passport. We ain't get no passport. Go ahead.
And will return your recompense upon your own head. And I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Judea, and they shall sell them to the Sabaeans, to a people far off, for Yahweh hath spoken it.
So vengeance is of Yahweh, and he's going to take care of that whole slavery thing. Let Yahweh deal with his business. Go ahead.
Proclaim you this among the Gentiles.
Proclaim you this among the Gentiles. Now, people have given us the Gentiles and told us that those are the Jews. They went and got those people out of Germany. Those are Gentiles. How you gonna tell me prepare, proclaim you this among the Gentiles, and now the Jews are the Gentiles? That don't fit. So the converts can't take the place of the children. The converts can deal with the children, but they don't want to deal with the children. They, no, we're not gonna share this with the real children of Israel. See, we're going to take the food of the saints and we're going to eat it all ourselves. It ain't going to work. And Yahweh going to make sure that that's not going to go down. Now let's go back to where we were. Just so people didn't think that that was an out of line statement. Because see, what happens is we have been given this whole thing of political correctness. So it's not correct for us to say this, or it's not correct for us to say that. Meanwhile, our people are not getting taught the things that they need to know to truly understand what Yahweh has put in place for the children of Israel. Go ahead.
Isaiah chapter 61 and verse 3. To appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of Yahweh, that he might be glorified. And they shall build the old wastes, they shall raise up the former desolations, and they shall repair the waste cities, the desolations of many generations. And strangers shall stand and feed your flocks, and the sons of the alien shall be your plowmen and your vine dressers.
Right. We've already been made to serve with rigor and do all of those things. So now we will have servants, and they will do that work for us. See, this is Yahweh's way of recompensing to Israel for the hard labor and the bondage that we have been made to serve. Go ahead.
But you shall be named the priest of Yahweh. Men shall call you the ministers of our Elohim. You shall eat the riches of the Gentiles.
So it automatically separates the children of Israel from the Gentiles. Yet that's not what we're given today. See, there's a reason why the people in the land are calling themselves just Jews, because that's only one tribe of Israel. So then now they proclaim that the people among Great Britain are the other people of Israel, that they're the other tribes. Yet when you start to understand why this Apocrypha was taken out of this Bible, it details that it was the Gentiles that came in and knocked Jerusalem down. That it was them that came and invaded it. So how did you then become the Jews after you came in and killed off 1.2 million of them and sold the rest to work in the salt mines in Africa? How you then become them after you do that? So the only way to present that is they got to take that out of those books so that you don't read those. But they have study Bibles all around. It's up to us whether or not we're going to do that. You can research anything on the internet. The problem is that ain't what people are researching. People on the internet, you trying to see what the last thing that J-Lo did. What baby say? Put some respect on my name. This kind of stuff we researching. You can find out anything you want on this internet. They ain't looking at it for that. All that information is right before us. But that's not what we're looking at it for. And that's a problem. Because you're going to miss it the day that it's gone. Because it's going to be gone. See, everybody take these things for granted. We post and we put a whole lot of things on the internet to the point where some people are getting, they kind of get, well, we'll go somewhere else and we'll come back and watch soccer, right? Some of them internet problems, that don't be us, that be Yahweh. Knock it down. And you come back and you can't watch it, you're going to be hurt. Right. There's going to come a point where Yahweh going to knock that whole thing down. These Gentiles going to knock it down because there's too much information being passed across this internet. You know how easy it was for them to rule over people when information wasn't able to spread across the country like this?
Across the world now.
And now it can go right from one part of the globe to another part. They're going to shut that down in a little bit. So you better enjoy it while you got it. Because when it goes down, what you think they did in some of those other countries where they had those civil wars, where they had all this stuff in the Ukraine and all that? What you think they did? Wow, shut down. How you think the people were organizing? Internet. Think about all the marches that our people took place in. They had AM radio and newspaper type things to gather themselves. Our people don't know what an AM radio is now. You shut down this internet and the people not going to understand what's going on, because ain't no real news on that TV. That's more like the gossip section. What you hear, that 6 o'clock news. That stuff, that ain't nothing. All you see is the things that happen within a 5 mile radius of the perimeter. And it's things that they pick and choose of what's gonna go on there. When me and this brother went to go and teach in the prison, and we see all these white people, we said, man, how y'all get here? Because we don't never see y'all on TV. So we're trying to figure out how these white people get into prison. They did something, but they still don't seem to make the news like ours do. We on the news every night. So we're amazed when we see all these white people in the jail. Where in the world did they come from? Right. They dirty laundry just don't make the news like ours do. But see, that is also forming other people's opinion of us by showing us in that light. Go ahead.
And in their glory shall you boast yourselves. Verse 7. For your shame you shall have double, and for confusion they shall rejoice in their portion. Therefore in their land they shall possess the double. Everlasting joy shall be unto them. For I, Yahweh, love judgment. I hate robbery for burnt offering, and I will direct their work in truth, and I will make an everlasting covenant with them. And their seed shall be known among the Gentiles, and their offspring among the people. All that see them shall acknowledge them, that they are the seed which Yahweh hath blessed.
Right, that's going to take a lot. And their seed shall be known among the Gentiles. Not that seed going to be Gentiles. See, this book does not agree with the things that have been given unto us. Their seed shall be known among the Gentiles and their offspring among the people. For us to be recognized as the children of Israel, there's a lot of things that are going to have to happen for that to take place. Go ahead.
I will greatly rejoice in Yahweh. My soul shall be joyful in my Elohim. For he hath clothed me with the garments of salvation. He has covered me with the robe of righteousness, as a bridegroom decketh himself with ornaments, and as a bride adorneth herself with her jewels. For as the earth bringeth forth her bud, and as the garden causeth the things that are sown in it to spring forth, so the Adonai Elohim will cause righteousness and praise to spring forth before all the nations.
Right, before all the nations, but this is when Israel is truly presented in that land. What they have given us here is some people posing as Israel, and there is no peace in that land nor in any others. So none of the things that are prophesied have come to pass. Let's go to Psalms 133.
Psalms 133. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious ointment upon the head, that ran down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard, that went down to the skirts of his garments.
Right. The first thing that the Euro Gentiles want to give us now is that a man need to shave his face. There's a culture that we were given, and I was talking about this man beard going down to the skirts of his garment. It is written that we're not supposed to cut the corners of our beards. We're not supposed to cut our beard off. That's the first thing that they want you to do here. But you connect that with the first thing that they did when we got here. Change your name so you can get another culture. See? Go ahead.
As the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion. For there Yahweh commanded the blessing, even life forevermore.
You know, it's interesting. Anybody who calls themselves an Israelite or calls themselves a Jew or deal with anything of this book, there should not be a smooth-faced man among them. And it is amazing to me how it jumps. When you deal with people who are part of Judaism, you'll see one person with hair on their face, and the next person you see, and their face is just as smooth, and they might have on the little yarmulke or whatever. And I say, man, why your face that smooth, man? Where you get this shaved face from? Then you go and you see the sisters, and some of them covered, and some of them are not. Then you got people who think that they can cover their hair with other hair, so they put a wig on. How you cover your hair with hair? What is it makes no sense with some of the stuff that happens here. There's a way that Israel is supposed to cover themselves, carry themselves. But these images that we have been given, they don't fit those things. We have been given this image of Christ with long hair and a beard. Saul said, does nature even teach you that it is a shame for a man to have long hair? Why would Apostle Paul say that if Christ had long hair going down to his shoulders? See, that image doesn't fit the things that are written in this book. If a man had long hair, he was under a Nazarite vow, and then a razor ain't supposed to come nowhere near his head until the vow is over. And Christ wasn't taking no Nazarite vow because Nazarite wasn't supposed to drink wine, and he clearly drank wine. So the stuff that they are showing us does not match the things that are in this book. And the problem is the leaders of the organizations have been put into agreements by accepting money here and accepting grants here, accepting those things. It has put them in a position whereby there are certain things that they cannot speak against. And then that's a problem because now they cannot effectively be servants of the Most High when there are ties that tie them from being able to talk about certain things. Because now the average church is truly losing their ability to say anything against same-sex marriage because they have accepted that 501c3 setup, and that was a law pushed by the government, and no 501c3 organization who has that certificate can speak out against law made by the government. So in a minute, those same people are going to be forced to do same-sex marriages, and it's going to be a problem. Go ahead.
Psalm 134. Behold, bless you, Yahweh, all you servants of Yahweh, which by night stand in the house of Yahweh. Lift up your hands in the sanctuary and bless Yahweh. Yahweh that made heaven and earth, bless you out of Zion. Praise you, Yahweh.
Say that again.
Hallelujah.
Thank you. See, a lot of times people say that and they see that and they don't know what that really says. That don't say praise you the Lord. What was there was hallelujah. So you got to consider how many times that this is in this book. Praise you the Lord in all caps. That originally said hallelujah. It is all throughout this book. But people want to tell you his name is too holy to say. Yet the book says publish you the name of Yahweh. How can I publish it if I can't write it or say it? Go ahead.
Hallelujah. Praise you the name of Yahweh. Praise him, O you servants of Yahweh.
Now consider what it said. It says hallelujah. Then it just told you what it did. Praise you the name of Yahweh. See, the thing makes sense if you say it right. Go ahead.
You that stand in the house of Yahweh in the courts of the house of our Elohim. Hallelujah. For Yahweh is good. Sing praises unto his name, for it is pleasant. For Yahweh hath chosen Jacob unto himself, and Israel for his peculiar treasure. For I know that Yahweh is great, and that our Adonai is above all Elohims. Whatsoever Yahweh pleased, that did he in heaven and in earth, in the seas, and in all deep places. He causeth the vapors to ascend from the ends of the earth. He maketh lightnings for the rain. He bringeth the wind out of his treasuries. Who smote the firstborn of Egypt, both of man and beast? Who sent tokens and wonders into the midst of you, O Egypt, upon Pharaoh and upon all his servants? Who smote great nations and slew mighty kings? Sihon, king of the Amorites, and Og, king of Bashan, and all the kingdoms of Canaan, and gave their land for an inheritance and heritage unto Israel his people. Your name, O Yahweh, endureth forever, and your memorial, O Yahweh, throughout all generations.
Your name, O Yahweh, endures forever. So Consider that in the way that people are telling people. Your name, O Shem, endures forever. So your name, the name, endures forever. That don't even make no sense. So why would somebody want you not to say the name of Yahweh? They're trying to get you to alter the contract. See, one of the things that it says when the bondage was very hard upon the children of Israel and they began to cry unto Yahweh and their cry was heard. So you have to consider maybe somebody is trying to make sure that your cry is not heard by Yahweh because you won't call his name. Go ahead.
Verse 14. For Yahweh will judge his people, and he will repent himself concerning his servants. The idols of the heathen are silver and gold, the work of men's hands. They have mouths, but they speak not. Eyes have they, but they see not. They have ears, but they hear not. Neither is there any breath in their mouths. They that make them are like unto them. So is everyone that trusteth in them. Bless Yahweh, O house of Israel. Bless Yahweh, O house of Aaron. Bless Yahweh, O house of Levi. You that fear Yahweh, bless Yahweh. Blessed be Yahweh out of Zion, which dwelleth at Jerusalem. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Yahweh has given us these things for a reason. He has put these things here for us for a reason. We must go outside of the things that we have been presented with in all of these various documentaries. We have to understand that that there's one major group that pretty much controls all the things in Hollywood. We have to consider that Hollywood was set up in reaction to the videos that were put out by Hitler. Hitler had movies that he set up as his little teaching tools, and it was anti-Jewish things. So understand that Hollywood was developed to counteract his propaganda. So it was automatically set up to make Jewish people look in a better light than what Hitler was presenting to them. So understand why it was set up, and understand in all of the movies that you see, in everything that you see on TV, you've seen us in some of the most god-awful roles. You've seen us do all types of things. You've seen regular Gentiles do all kind of god-awful things. You've never seen anything that presents any Jewish person in a bad light. Consider that. And consider how many movies you've watched. Consider how many television shows you've watched. You've never seen them presented in a bad light because it's theirs. They own it. In all the black shows, just sit there and watch for the Jewish name to roll up. Just sit there. You can see the actor's name, blah, 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 blah. Wait till you get to the producers. Sting, something. Look at this, right? And you find that they are the creators of our shows. They are the ones in charge of our shows. So when it comes down to these images are put in your mind for a reason. So this is why you have to spend time reading this book so that you get some different images in your head, and you have to learn how to read this book so that you understand what truly is going on. At least we get some other ideas by watching these things that are presented unto us. That's all that we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.